Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer 1745 here with my continuing playthrough of Hearts of Iron 4 with the Road to 56 mod, and we're playing with the latest version of the 1.7.1 actually version of the AI. So we're getting close to the war here and want to see how that does. It did look pretty well. The AI was doing much better than anticipated before down in Spain, but I want to see it for myself on the grander scale. Now, YouTube, and you probably heard this from other YouTubers, is not readily recommending my videos to new people, particularly to the suggested videos that you see on the right side of your screen after watching some other videos. So yes, you who have subscribed will, in your subscribers feed and similar such, will get when I release new videos. It would really help if you were to share links to videos on other social media sources, whatever you already do. I'm not suggesting you go, form a Twitter, or set up a Twitter account if you don't already have one. But whether it's on Twitter or whether it's on Reddit or even, looking at on Steam or other things, if you share links in various chats and forums and get the word out about this video and other videos, it really would help the channel grow, and I would really appreciate it. Yes, YouTube sucks. Well, on that topic, I would say, well, I would say, my guess, and this is maybe my prejudice view partially from some of the political based, and definitely this is true of the political base, but I'm also thinking of not purely non political stuff as well. I mean, stuff that's just dealing with technology or other things, that more than half of the significant creators on YouTube would love to leave the platform if there was something out there even somewhat similar. And so, yes, Discord, you're more than welcome to do some promotion. Okay, great. But on that, and so if you belong to other Discords, like a Hearts of Iron 4 Discord, or the Road to 56 if they have the Discord, or when I'm playing Black Ice, you can put it, and it, quite honestly, you could say, well, why don't I do it, Gamer? Well, I have done it on some of the forums, but a lot of those places look a little unkindly if I'm, and thank you for the offer there, Toy Jet, on your Discord, and I will certainly see about doing it there at some point. But if I were to go onto some of the various, like a Hearts of Iron 4 Discord, and start self-promoting out, and it's not always looked very kindly, but if you do it as a viewer, they generally don't have the same reaction that as I do it. So both in the sense that the forum managers, as well as the general populace. Just to give you an example, if you were to go to the Paradox forums, whether in and even in their main Hearts of Iron 4 page, not spam it out everywhere, but put a link to one of my videos there in the Paradox forum, whether this one or someone, like when the war starts or something like that, in the main forum, that's fine. But if I do it, trust me, they'll tell me not to, unless it's somebody specifically asking a question and I've dealt with it in a video. But now I do post often, not always, in their Let's Plays, which is their after action report forum. That's where I'm supposed to self-promote up on them. But so if you guys think it's worthy to promote somewhere else, and again, I'm not suggesting spamming everywhere, but making a few posts around that really really would help the channel out. and even a few small numbers of extra subscribers or followers here on Twitch would really be appreciated. And so thank you for anyone who does it. I really do appreciate it, even if I don't acknowledge you individually. So let's continue moving forward here. We are looking at depending on getting through the national focuses, a spring to early summer war start, because I'm planning on crushing Poland fast and quickly shifting to the west. And I don't think following the sort of the historical model is useful or necessary. Okay, we've got, well, no, we don't have enough motorized yet. But I think I want to still just do more anti-tank, catching up on our anti-tank needs. Yes, BitChute is definitely a possible alternative to it, and very well may be growing. I've heard there's a float plane is coming. It actually exists, but they've only allowed a few creators on it. Now that's purely a paid model, meaning subscription-based stuff. So if I were to do a pure subscription base, but you sort of need a viewer base, attractive viewer base somehow, and there are other alternatives that are happening. So there's definitely, and part of it, quite honestly, is the expense of setting up a YouTube like thing, because YouTube now, my understanding, it does make money, but for the first, I don't know, 7 years or more of its existence, it made, no profit. It did have income coming in, but it wasn't a profitable thing, and it was only sort of early initial investors and then Google able to fund it at its loss. But I understand now. Okay, we got one more of them coming. Just to be on the safe side, let's do another synthetic refinery. We'll stick it here, hopefully away from bombing, or likely bombing. Okay, well, do we have any in production? Jaeger divisions. Yes, we do have one Jaeger. Slowly producing some Jaegers. 111 days. 104 days. We'll do that because we're going to be doing more ground combat. Okay, we've established Volkswagen. Nationalized aviation industry, which to the best of my understanding didn't happen in Nazi Germany, so I don't know why this is here. I don't get this. Just don't get this. $70 days. That's just, I don't know if we want to do that. Pair, that's 14 days. Okay, war with Poland. So we want to start going down this path, this prepare to invade. And real fuel refining. Okay, good. So we are all caught up, except for the one we're still doing, with the 39 technologies there. Don't think we're going to go down the atomic. That'll be 1940 for approved fire control systems. We'll do radio detection finding. Yeah, we'll try that out. That's cool. And we'll also do improved radar. Well, since I haven't seen, there may be an event. Okay, let me see. Bias, Polish. I cry every time I read. Oh, Morzo Wallach. Okay. Yes, the Polish Air Force. I don't know. Is it talking about the Poles that a lot of them were sort of fighting in France and then escaped later out to Britain and fought there? Because I was thinking, you know, I sometimes try to place myself, and it's really hard, you know, on people who think they can do it, especially all these freaking modernist social justice warrior types that judge everything through their modern lens. But I'm trying to put myself into the position of a Polish political leader. And I'm not talking about an extremist faction or a minority faction, because a bunch of, you know, the leadership of the, and particularly not Henline, but Franks. No, Franks? Yeah, Franks, I think. The number 2 guy in the Sudeten party, he was a complete and total bastard. But a lot of the Germans that supported the Sudeten party, you know, Czechoslovakia, they were just German ethnic peoples that spoke German. Most of them just wanted to be part of Germany. They weren't like any diehard Nazis. They just all supported the Nazi party because that was the party that was going to get them united with Germany. I'm talking about the sort of standard Czechs, the sort of, you know, center right, the center left. I'm not talking about the communist extreme or the fascist extreme, because there was a fascist Czechoslovakian movement going on as well. Once they've lost the Sudetenland, what were they thinking? Why did they make the decisions that they made? And, you know, obviously I'm looking back at it and not looking at it the time with their experience, but I would have tried harder on their part, realizing that once you're realizing the defense is done, okay, once you've lost the Sudetenland and also this bit over here, once you've lost that, and obviously you've already been outflanked by having Austria become part of Germany, you're no longer capable of defending yourself, and Germany is acting very aggressive. Now, the Czechs had built a Maginot Line-like fortress along its German border that was supposedly really, really well done for a, you know, fortifications for the period. And they're continuing armaments development, so they're continuing with the idea of national defense, as opposed to going, hey, yeah, nope, we can't defend ourselves. We're just keeping an army to sort of keep the peace and just demobilizing. You know, if they just, there's definitely an idea of like, hey, there's nothing, we can't win, and fighting only destroys our country. Okay, I get that viewpoint, but the Czechs are continuing. They develop a fighter that is at least the second half, if not all of its development phase. I forget the fighter. After they lose the Sudetenland, so it's being developed in 1939. Obviously, the war has already started here, but it's that they're developing this, and then when the Germans get a hold of it, because they get a hold of it intact, and all the production team and the design team intact, the Germans test it out. And the German conclusion with this fighter that the Czechs have developed, that it is not enough better than the Bf-109 to put it in production as well as the Bf-109. So they developed the Czechs have developed a fighter that is better than the current version of their Bf-109. That the Germans think is better. Whether it is or not, I don't know. But according to the Germans' own study of it, is better than their aircraft, but not enough better to have the complications of a complete different supply chain and production chain, and of course not being enough better. And they're also planning on developing the 109 to try to replace the production of the 109. That would just be horrendous switchover. So because it isn't that good, it isn't some wonder weapon. So the Czechs are developing this aircraft, this fighter aircraft. Don't they realize they're going to be invaded? Okay, they do, so that's why they're building an fighter aircraft. And I don't think the design team is like, hey, we really looking out and hoping that the Germans take us over, and the company and we're just going to sell armaments to the Germans once they take us over. I don't think they're looking at that. So I don't know whether they're deluding themselves, or either on that, hey, Germany won't actually attack now, or that if we have these fighters, we'll be able to win. That, because if we go to war, so will France, and France will march in and take them, and we'll win. So I don't know why they haven't developed a better pre-planned, let's get the hell out of here if Germany takes us over. And because it's getting back to Toyjet, and I'm going to read the comments in a second. Get out to France, get this talent, because I can understand the idea of, oh, well, we can't load all of the aircraft making machinery on trains enough to get them out and get them over to Paris in time. I understand that, but that you can't put on, you can't have some transport aircraft, that you can't put on your 10 top aircraft designers on board an aircraft and fly them to Poland, to Romania. Romania at this time, at the time of the fall of Czechoslovakia, is still trying to be very pro-Western. That you can't fly them out, that you can't get some of these other designers out, that you can't sort of like go, hey, yeah, do sort of a secret program to give everybody, I don't know, $20 equivalent, of that time period, which is like a couple $100, or I don't know, hand out foreign currency like French francs or something that people in other countries would want, not Czech currency that no one cares about anymore. And then, hey, all you army soldiers, in there, if you want to try to, get out of the country, have pre-set up, because don't talk to him too much these days, but he really helped me with my, I'm forgetting his screen name right now, but who helped me with my Mod Third Reich events. I actually ended up using, and didn't know it, a picture of his grandfather, until he pointed it out to me, that his grandfather did make it out of Czechoslovakia and did fight in the Czech Legion, or the Czech whatnot, coming out. So there obviously were a fair number of people, but that they didn't pre-set this up. So when the Germans come to occupy us, we'll have, I don't know, 10 to 48 hours, depending on whether there's any fighting or how long it takes to drive, to try to evacuate critical personnel and destroy things like critical prototypes of aircraft and plans to those aircraft and that kind of stuff. I just don't get what they're thinking. So maybe, let's see what anything from Poland to France, the same with the pilots who fled other countries like the Czech and Dutch pilots. Yeah. Yes, they're developing the 38T is also being developed at the time. The 38T is just sort of, I would say, coming into series production when Germany occupies the rest of Czechoslovakia. It's out of prototype stage, if I'm not mistaken. So they've already got the machine set up, but they had basically produced 0 of them. Or there's just literally handfuls of them. And the Czech army at the time is still predominantly 35T tanks, and they've been exporting, including, I think Germany takes over a bunch of 35Ts that were destined for Sweden, were contract built. They had already sent some out to Sweden. I think it was that, or maybe it was Romania, but I know they had sent some, and actually we often play War Thunder here. The Czech tanks that are built during World War II and is all designed off of the Swedish tanks, all designed off of the 35T basis. Some very directly, some just are design evolutions off of the 35T, are all based off of that. And so I get the idea of the company sort of staying in, as they sort of talked about with the fate of Czechoslovakia, is who gets the arms, changeover, that they were selling the arms. So not saying that they should have shut down their basic arms production, but just better evacuation for the situation. And then, I just don't get why they didn't have a better thing. Fokker did the same at the end of the Great War, everything to the Netherlands, right? If it was dropped into the body of the Czech PM, I would have all the factories, railways, bridges rigged to blow. Yeah, I get that, IKB, but in 38 or early 39, actually it's early 39 if I remember right, is when they get I don't know how to keep all the dates in my head, is when they occupy the rest of Czechoslovakia. And it's actually a military invasion that is unopposed. I get the idea that you're not knowing or assuming that there's going to be a war going to happen anytime soon. Because, hey, because I'm trying to put myself in their understanding of their world. This is like when I say the social justice warriors. I don't blame, George Washington for owning slaves, because he grew up in that world they had slaves. Slavery is wrong, owning slaves is wrong, but I don't blame them because I can't put myself in their shoes going in a world in which slavery was normal and what I would have done then. Okay? So I'm not trying to be the social justice warrior. I'm trying to picture myself at the time period with some of these people. Looking at my country, my defenses are gone. And I have the national resource. Some of them are in armaments industries. Some of them are just in other technical fields that could be put towards armaments or whatnot. And so far, no one's fought to resist Hitler. And so there may be no war, or the war may be years away. And so just blowing up bridges, railway bridges, or any sort of bridges over rivers, or even just blowing up basic armaments factories, because the Czechs make a really nice Mauser rifle. The Germans keep in production. Actually, all the German mountain Gebirgsjäger rifles are made in the Czech factory. Really nicely, beautifully done things. I have one of them. They're beautiful. They're super lightweight. I have not fired mine. I fired Mauser, K98Ks, but I've not fired this lightweight one. I just want to sometime. But it's like, the turn down bolt handle that has the sort of steel knob on the end. That steel knob is hollowed out on the mountain rifle version to make it lighter. So this got to be a punishing rifle to shoot. But they were trying to make as light a Mauser rifle as they could. And it's really nicely made rifle. And those are all made in the Czech, in the Brno arsenal. But so they keep the Brunner arsenal going. The Czechs are already making a Mauser rifle in the standard German caliber. And so trying to destroy that, yeah, you'd hurt the Germans, but, it's not necessarily a productive thing. But that's different than going, hey, get the scientists out, get the engineers out, get the young men who are in the army who want to get out, make it easy for them to get out, make that, make all of that easy to refugee out, make that there's sort of pre-set up lines over to Poland, out through Czechoslovakia before Czechoslovakia is well organized. Early on, Hungary is not, I would put it in such a committed member of the Axis, because they're worried a little bit about what the borders are going to be and what Germany is going to do. So unarmed young males moving through their country isn't something that they're going to try to stop just to please the Germans. But they might try to detain, a few special cases, scientists or something like that. But those guys could get out through Poland and fly out to Romania. Yugoslavia at this time is not yet, in late 38, early 39, is not yet wanting to be in the German sphere of power. So they can all these people can migrate through out to what looked to be Europe's superpower, Europe's greatest power. It looked to be Europe's greatest power, France, and sort of have an exiled community in France, is what I'm thinking. And so I think you're going a bit far in, because now you're looking at it, hey, it's within 6 months, the war is, the world is at war over Poland. So yeah, blowing all that stuff up sounds good, but that's sort of looking backwards. I'm trying to look at the time period. Okay, Falker. The VZ-24, yeah, that's the Czech rifle. It's the Gewehr. Oh, it's like 3311 or something like that. Sorry, I can't remember. Is the lightened version of it that they make? So I think it's G 33 stroke 11 or something like that. Sorry, I'm butchering that. Yes, that's what you're talking. Yes, Toy Jet. Maybe they had small department and foreign offices to pick up and send military personnel. Okay, Nagaro. Hopefully you will show up later if you get back in time. And so now Poland might think, and I'm looking at January 1, 1939. It's setting up an alliance with, during this period, after Czechoslovakia fully falls. It's setting up alliance with France and Britain now. And so it might think it can hold out. So I could see in their shoes the idea of, trying to fight on more. But you also have to look at Poland. Poland does design a little bit of aircraft, and they come up with, what is it, the 7PT or whatever. I know there's a 7 and a P and a T in it. It's an okay tank. It's based off the Carden Lloyd Vickers thingy coming off out of the UK and sort of drive functions. But really, Poland designs nothing of their own. Their 2 machine guns are copies of American machine guns, one licensed, the other one unlicensed. They have so much trouble dealing with the first one and getting the license that they just say, screw it, we're going to pirate the other thing. They're producing Mauser rifles, so they're just copying the German rifles. And so they are building their own arms, but they're not really designing much of their own armaments industry, where Czechoslovakia was a leading element in tank design. Because if you look at the 35T for a 1935 era 35-36 tank, that's doing pretty good in that time period, the 35T. The 35, and also a little better, the 30 8T driving system. You know, it's engine, transmission, human interaction, driving mechanics of it is really good. That's one of the reasons the Germans keep it in production all this throughout the war until, you know, into the Hetzer, is because it drives really well. So it's a well-designed vehicle, has some flaws, you know, but they were still learning what tanks should be. And so the Czechs are doing much better, than, in my opinion, than the French are with tank design, and are doing at least equally as good as the British in tank design. And the Americans aren't even trying in outside of Walter Christie, who's a sort of a mad genius type that the U.S. government doesn't like, particularly the Army doesn't like as a person. The U.S. isn't even trying to design tanks, so the Czechs are they're light years ahead of anything coming out of Italy. I would say probably better, because the Soviets are mostly copying the Walter Christie design for the BT series, and their other little stuff are copying the British Carden Lloyd series tanks. Everybody's copying them. It's not the Poles, the Italians. Yeah. So, you know, some of the drive systems there, and even the British copy some of Walter Christie's drive systems in their cruiser tanks. So, the Czechs are that far out ahead. They're doing very good on aircraft design, like I was talking about. They're doing really well on artillery design. They come up with probably the best, most modern, in late 1944, artillery design of the World War eras. It's that I don't know whether the Soviets copy it or just years later come up with a similar sort of design for their D-30 122 millimeter howitzer of the Cold War era. And the idea that once you quickly deploy it, but the way you deploy, the Czech was a 4-leg system, the D-30 was a 3-leg system, but you actually, so it's much more stable, is when it's properly deployed, the wheels are off the ground. So the mounting system quickly all goes on the ground, so it's much more stable. So you're not getting the recoil shock of, air-filled tires disrupting your accuracy of your artillery piece. So they continue, because the design teams are captured by the Germans. The Czechs continue designing artillery pieces for the Germans, and they come up with this rather new, good artillery system for the Germans that never really gets into production because the war is ending and goes back to the earlier thing. The steel, they never give enough steel to the factory to put it into production. But the Germans are very happy that they're designing new artillery, because, of course, the Germans are hoping to win the war and will need better artillery as time goes on for World War III or whatever. But so the Czechs are this sort of design powerhouse. They're also designing really great small arms and other things. So they're not just a manufacturing where Poland is. So I look at Poland as a different case, but that they might consider that they could hold out. Now, of course, they get invaded by the Soviet Union, so there's no chance of them holding out. And there I can also look at the possibility of, Romania coming in on, or at least, if not coming into the war on their side, at least being a supply conduit in and out. But where Czechoslovakia, especially once the Czechs get this bit of the border, the Hungarians, it's this bit of the border here, which should be in Hungary right now. Because this bit, and it's maybe not quite this, but this is how paradox. Hungary gets and demands this in the follow-up, in between, after Germany gets the Sudetenland, but before the full breakup of Czechoslovakia, they sort of invade and get this bit of land. So the Czechs know that the Hungarians are not going to be and the Poles also know that the Hungarians are not going to be a reliable neutral nation or any sort of thing. Let's see. Poles were attempting to drive its air force forward for some years during the 30s. They were leading, but the Depression hit. Yeah, economics is a real factor, but also I would just say they don't have the deep educated design base of engineers. This, shall we call it, because I want to use the Bohemian region of the Austro-Hungarian Empire was a very well developed part of the world, both industrially and sort of technical education. I'm not talking about like education in arts and poetry and history, but in education of math, sciences, and whatnot. And from the Austro-Hungarian perspective, which is not a Germanic or as Germanic-centric, definitely not as Hitler's worldview, the idea that you were a Czech as part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, you might not be a top-tier citizen within that empire, but you're not some inferior sub-citizen of, and they are not looking at least I don't think mostly in racial terms, but, the poor peasants living up in some mountain village, somewhere, as a backwards people as within the empire. These were well-developed. So they were starting out with this well-developed base sense so that they can keep up with the world on not just because there's I forget coming out of the thing a really good automobile manufacturer, not Tatra is the truck, is it them or somebody else that makes really cool cars, looks sort of like blimps or Zeppelin type things. They're also doing that. It was supposed to be a supply conduit for Poland, but when the war began, the Germans pressured Romania to surrender the military equipment bound for Poland. That several tanks and aircraft from Britain. Hello, Racina. Is there song request? Nope, no song request. Sorry. Music is a problem on YouTube, and these videos are going to go up later on YouTube, so we don't do that, unfortunately. So yeah, so I try to view it through the eyes of a person who had the life experiences. Poland doesn't exist in 1914 other than maybe some sort of special region as part of the Russian Empire. And it did sort of have that sort of special region as part of the Russian Empire, but it really doesn't exist as a national state for sure. As an ethnic group, yes, but not as a national state. Czechoslovakia definitely does not exist in 1914. At the beginning of 1914, and obviously, as we've come to learn, it's an artificially created state. But so these people are new to the idea of 35 days. Okay, we're in November. We want to get to there. Sherpa tactics. Let's do this next. And that also reminds me we have the slot for Rommel now available and open. Yes, you're absolutely right about that toy jet. And so I'm just trying to, and so these people are newly created nations. Poland, yes, has a long history of a national identity. The Bohemians, I don't think so. I mean, they've been part of the Holy Roman Empire forever. The idea of a national identity. I don't think that, I mean, it becomes now modern day the Czechs, yes, but as an idea that they should be some sort of, what's new here? Oh, new equipment. Oh, we could do that. We could improve our infantry equipment. Oh, let's cancel that. Let's do this. Okay, make sure we're converting over to newer infantry equipment. That's fine. That's good. And we need more tungsten. Okay. Let's do that and get more tungsten, which is going to eat into our Soviet Union, not 16, just 8. Vital part was assuming that the Poles would not be able to get any higher education. Yes, absolutely. And I do know that there was that kind of thing going on with, particularly within the Russian Empire, that was controlling the great bulk of it. And that very much influences it. And so these political leaders are new to the job of like running a country. They're not like, hey, we have the, because Germany, as it's formed at the end of the Franco-Prussian War, is basically the Prussian state. The German Empire is basically the Prussian state. And the Prussian state has a very long history of existing. France, obviously, even though they've gone through various revolutions about every 60 years, since Louis the 18th, Louis the 16th, sorry. Louis the 16th is overthrown. So they've gone through a bit, chaotic. They have an institutional memory. Obviously, Britain has an institutional memory that's going way back. And so these are newly formed states, and they just don't have that, like I say, institutional memory. What's going on? Okay, what we're going to do here is, now that we just got those, no, wrong place. We're going to, where's our motorized? We're going to cancel 2 of these since we just got these guys, because we're running low on trucks. Well, we're sort of at 0 right now. And so we're going to do that so we can get a little more comfy group our level of trucks reserves, so once we start taking combat losses. I'm right now building mine laying submarines. I don't know, and all of my naval production is going into subs. Yeah, material is, resources is definitely a factor. Toy jet, most assuredly. We have enough? Okay, do we? Okay, do we have, because it was about 2,500. We need, okay, yes, that is, because we have been expanding our army, but that is probably enough to do, yeah, okay, we need a little more than we have, but it's close enough. You're absolutely right. And well, back, we'll just save this. Let's look at our armor divisions before I spend the last of my currently available. Signals company, or yeah, that's good with that. Well, if we were to, let's see, if we were to go to armored battalions, medium tank, if we were to save that, okay, we only have 180, 190, oh, pause. So we need a lot more medium tanks if we do a mass conversion. No, let's cancel this. Let's come back here and add a motorized infantry. That we don't have enough motorization, but no, that'll slow us up. Well, we won't do that now. Okay, we'll leave this how it is. We got to build up more. Hello, Gazcop. Planning to use, yeah, we are. I'm looking at possibly using the paratroopers to see about going after Norway or something like that. Oh yes, they fought that. That's what gets them. The Soviet-Polish War gets their independence affirmed. Please, you're going to lose fast. Well, I don't know how fast I'm going to lose them because I don't know how much I'm going to use them. We'll see. Probably I should do some more, but we'll see about that. Signals company, yeah. That's definitely something I've been considering as well. Adding there, just so few, because it's going to take 10 points of my very limited amounts. There we go. Of experience. Okay, well, I've been talking enough. I think we're going to end the episode here. I want to thank you all for watching. Thanks for liking the videos. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. And, of course, I love hearing from you. Don't wander off. Please post questions, comments, suggestions on any of the topics. Love to hear from you. See you next time for more Hearts of Iron.